think that we are now live. Hello, hello, everyone, and happy St. Patrick's Day. Okay, welcome to our special edition, very special edition, St. Patrick's Day celebration with my extra super duper supercharger special guest, my brother Michael McHugh. Okay, I bring out the air horn for special occasions. All right, so let me just make sure that everything is lined up. That we're live. Are we live? I think we're live. We're live. For supercharger special guest. Okay, yeah, we're live. All right. Okay. So everyone, I have you know that today, in honor of St. Patrick's Day, I thought it would be very fitting for us to share with you some insights that may not be commonly known by a lot of people, and that might be add some interest to the whole St. Patrick's Day celebration. So my brother Michael, my oldest brother, oldest of four of us, I'm the youngest, he's the oldest, and he's joining me from New Jersey today, and I'm here in Florida. And Michael is so I'm going to give you a little intro of who my brother is. He is an amazing brother, one of the most amazing brothers you could find. And my siblings and I look up to him very much so. If I were to go as far as to say we revere him, we kind of do. So, have you heard me say that before, Michael? No, you haven't. So no, you haven't. So, but he has earned that status from us because he's always been a role model, set a positive example for us as siblings, and is always willing to try interesting and exciting new things. And so one of the things that he did that was most intriguing to us, one day he announced to our family that he was going to learn to play the bagpipes. And we're like, okay, that's interesting. So he went off, found a teacher, and not only that, said, I'm going to join a Celtic pipe band, which he proceeded to do as well. And so as a result of that exposure, I personally got exposed to more Celtic violin music, fiddle music, Scottish, Irish, and got an interest in that for myself from that perspective. And also the different events Michael would take us to when we were little, with all these pipe band events and competitions. So we had that introduction to that world as a result of his research on our family genealogy and so forth. So you will notice that you see an Irish flag up here and a Jamaican flag. And today we're going to share some of the history, or Michael is going to highlight for you some of the history of how Ireland, he's going to tell you a little bit about St. Patrick's Day, and then the crossroads of Jamaica and Ireland and how they kind of come together and how they intersect and how it intersects with our family history. And also many of you maybe who are watching as well may have a similar history. So that's what we're going to share, and then we have a musical treat towards the end. Michael has a special bagpipe treat that you have to stay to the end to hear, and then I will do some fiddling around in between. So without further ado, I want to present my brother Michael. I mean, I could go on and on. One of the things I will let you know about him is that Michael is one of those people, he's very unassuming, and he probably wants me to be quiet very quickly, but I'm not going to stop. He actually went to college with Bill Gates. Yes, you did, but here's the difference. One graduated and the other did not. But I think it seems to have, there's something to be said to being a dropout, a Harvard dropout versus a Harvard graduate. But Michael today can claim the status of Harvard graduate, and he could have studied anything that he wanted. He has that level of talent and skill, and he decided to apply it to his bagpipes, among other things. He has many other skills, but today we're going to focus on his historian perspective, his historian hat, and talk from that position. And when you finish hearing Michael share, you can let me know if you think he should start his own podcast, and you let me know if you think that's a good idea. I think it is. All right, without further ado, Michael, take it away.
Well, I've built up, so I guess I've been put on Mount Everest. I don't know how much higher I can go there, but I'll do my best. So thank you, Emily, and it's certainly a privilege. And all those people listening, who I may not know personally, nonetheless, I hope can develop a kinship through the message that I'm going to share today. So let us go forth on St. Patrick's Day. Who was he? Why St. Patrick's Day? Well, St. Patrick there's a lot of myth around his origins and so forth. His death is not precisely known, though it is credited to be the 17th of March. So that's why we celebrate St. Patrick's Day on the 17th of March being his accredited death date. He was born in the 4th century. Latter part of the 4th century. His origins are not fully clear, but we know that there are connections to Brittany and certain parts of the western part of the Roman Empire. That's where his parents seem to come from. He was popular believers, and according to him, he was enslaved and taken to Ireland, though at that time he might have used the story of being enslaved as a way of compensating for the fact that he ran away from home. But let's go for the slavery part, because that's what happened. So he did end up in Ireland, spent servitude there for 6 or 7 years, and managed to go back to the continent, spent some time there, and then was called through a vision to return to Ireland, and then special papal dispensation. Who was there before him, so the Pope didn't want to have duplicate people. So when the former person left, I think he died. But anyway, Patrick was the successor, and he was the one who really made the difference. And his name Patrick was given to him through dispensation, a Latin name. Patrick was not his original name, but that's the name he has, and that's the name he adopted, and that's the one we know him by. And forever will be Patrick. So he, without going into a lot of detail, the bottom line is he was a powerful word for Christ, and he made major conversions in Ireland, and needless to say, he became the patron saint because of his force of personality and his deep faith. So there we have St. Patrick, and then I will jump for a moment to another saint. There are 3 patron saints well known in Ireland, St. Patrick being number 1, Bridget being another, and St. Columcille being the 3rd. And St. Columcille was in the latter part of the 6th century. He brought Christianity to the Scots. So he came from Ireland. He was expelled from Ireland, actually, because of some political intrigue, and he was told not to come back as a punishment. So he went to the island of Iona, of the island of Scotland, and brought Christianity to the Scots. So the Irish are extremely important in the early days of Christianity. They were the ones who actually brought a lot of culture to the rest of Europe, which was coming out of the Middle Ages, of the Dark Ages after the Roman Empire collapse. So also, just to make one point with the name St. Columcille, Emily alluded to the fact that I joined a bagpipe band, and unbeknownst to me, but through God's direction, I ended up joining a band called St. Columcille United Gaelic Pipe Band out of Kearney, New Jersey, and I specifically bring their name up because I owe them a lot, and to Joseph Patrick McGonigal, pipe major, who took me under his wing and taught me how to play the pipes. And from there, I competed with the band for many years, and many, many fond memories, and still consider myself a part of the band, even though I haven't played with them for quite a while. But I will always remember them as they're my band. So St. Columcille, shout out to you. If anyone's out there, you have my gratitude and my continued prayers. So, the Irish and the connection with Jamaica in particular, but in a broader sense, just to put in the context of the Irish within terms of Britain, England, Wales, Scotland, and so where the Irish play a role here. Because of the politicization and the troubles that have occurred because of the English incursions into Ireland and so forth, there's a lot of unsettled history. The true Britons, Briton, Britons, after whom the British Isles is named, they're the true Irish. It's only because the term British has become co-opted to mean English domination that the term Britain is not understood to really mean what it meant to be. So the British Isles is named for the Britons. The Britons were the first Gaels, the true inhabitants of the British Isles, and it is because of its subsequent history that it is no longer convenient to call an Irishman a British person. That would be a mistake. So, but just so you know, for those Irish out there who are well aware of the history, just know that the Britain belongs to you. Okay, so I can't put you on a high pedestal than that. All right, the English.
Hold on, Michael.
Yes.
So I just want to make sure you can hear me okay and everything.
Yes.
All right. So, okay, as you can see, I don't know why my screens do these weird things, but thank you for sharing that. So you're giving an overview about, now you're going to tell us where the English come in to the pit. Okay,
and I'm going to get to Jamaica. We'll get to Jamaica. I'll jump to
No, of course. No, go continue. I just want to make sure you could hear me. Continue, please.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So the English were the ones who colonized, and as a result of that, going into the West Indies and the rest of the world, but in particular the West Indies in this case, the early settlers in what became Jamaica, for example, and other parts of the West Indies, Trinidad and so forth, as well, has a prominent role. The Irish were a very prominent part of the settlers who went either as indentured servants as a result of the various conflicts that occurred within Ireland. People were sent out of Ireland. Same thing occurred with the Highland clearances in the 18th century, where Highland Scots were sent out, and a good way to accommodate this population of people who were being disowned, if you will, was to send them overseas or give them that opportunity. So Caribbean was a very prominent location to go to. So in the early days of the development of the Caribbean and the British, or the English Empire at the time, it didn't become British until there was the union between Scotland, Ireland, and England. Then you had what was called British Empire, but up until that point it was the English. So the Irish were a big part of the settlement force, going right to the very beginning when, in the case of Jamaica, the island was taken from the Spanish by Oliver Cromwell, another name that many Irishmen don't like to hear, but he was responsible during his time for acquiring Jamaica for to put it under English domination. It's remained so ever since until independence in 1962, when Jamaica became independent from Britain. Still part of the Commonwealth, however, Commonwealth of Nations. So the Irish were a very important part in colonizing the West Indies, and ultimately, of course, we have development in North America. Up until the Revolutionary War, 1776, Jamaica in particular was the place to go. It had in terms of the sugar estates, they were the major sugar estates. It was the largest English possession within the Caribbean, and the Jewish population from Europe going to the New World. Jamaica was the place to go, not the United States. And it wasn't until after the Revolutionary War and America's independence that America now became the focus. So the migration that had gone to, focused on Jamaica, the West Indies, started going to United States. But Jamaica played a very pivotal role in that point in time. So we know of the tradition. I shouldn't say tradition, because we don't want to make a tradition, but we know of the history of slavery. And slavery plays an extremely important part in the development of the New World. And the main distinction between slavery in the United States and that of the Caribbean, especially under the English, was that slavery in America, and that's the reason why I say this in this moment, slavery in America was abolished because of the Civil War, because of conflict, not because people came to realize it wasn't a good thing and let's voluntarily stop it. Now, that may have happened over time because slavery is an unsustainable system. But within the British sphere, slavery came to an end through political agitation, especially from religious groups. The Methodists were specifically a major part of that. And through religious agitation, the slavery was abolished through political writ, if you will. So in 1834, slavery was officially put on the back burner, and there was to be a 4-year period of apprenticeship till 1838. It was a way of compensating the slave owners who were losing the slaves, and so let's keep them as apprentices so that we can transition away from this. But the former slaves weren't having anything off it. So the 4 years of apprenticeship wasn't going to happen. So ultimately, the former slaves went off, and the British government was very concerned. Well, what are we going to do with the crops and the plantations and the labor system? And we want to have some kind of control now that slavery is gone. We can't look to the slaveholders as being now the people in charge. So England then initiated a number of immigration schemes in the 1830s. So they advertised Scotland and in Germany for migrants to go to Jamaica, and the intent was that they would become a political base so that Britain could have some control over the politics of the island, and also invigorate and to maintain the plantations and the economy. So our particular ancestors, apart from our African ancestors, we're focusing on our Irish ones today. They came in 1836. One Patrick O'Hara from County Antrim, and met and married an Irish girl called Mary Connolly, who also migrated around the same time to Jamaica. So the first records we have of them are in 1836. Patrick O'Hara and Mary Connolly. And they started off the Irish part of my family's ancestry in that regard. Shortly after that, based upon the incentives to bring people over to Jamaica from Europe, our Scottish ancestors came in the 1830s, and 2 brothers came, and one day we can go into more detail about them, but for the purposes of our story, we're going to concentrate on the Irish side. 2 brothers came from Scotland and married the 2 daughters of Patrick and Mary O'Hara, who were Mary and Margaret O'Hara. They married 2 boys from Scotland called John and William Marr and M.A.R.R. as opposed to the Irish Mar, which is Meagher, pronounced also Mar. So they united the Scots they came from Aberdeen, and County Antrim is from Mr. O'Hara, and they united, and we have the O'Haras and the Mars in Scotland and Jamaica as a result of that union. And so it goes. The Irish, as I say, were there for a long time before, so there's a lot of Irish ancestry within Jamaica pre this immigration scheme time that I'm telling you about. But that particular point in time, because of the end of slavery, was the precipitable point for the immigration that our family proceeds from. So we know that there's a huge Irish population in the
Michael, just to hold on a second there. Just hold on a minute. There's a sound, a background sound that we're hearing, either something on your desk or something in your mic that's coming into your feed. Is there some papers or something ruffling around? Is the dog interfering with anything?
It's the dog.
What's he doing?
He wants to come in.
Okay, why don't do you want to just show him
I'll show him. I'll be back.
Let's do, and we'll continue it from there. Yes, my dear people. That's the life of the pets. I think the dog is scratching at the door. That's what was happening. That is the sound you hear. Oh, Lord. Okay, so I hope you're finding this very intriguing. I know it's a history that we don't often hear, so I'm so excited that Michael can share it with us today. Meet the Fluff himself. Oh, Lordy. All right, we won't hear any more tapping.
Scratching at the door.
He was that loud and obnoxious.
And he
handsome guy.
He has to know what I'm doing and where I am. And if I'm ignoring him for too long, he's very persistent. So now he's quite happy.
Now he's better. Would you want to tell us his name?
This is Fluffy.
Okay. With a capital F.
For obvious reasons, he's Fluffy. And he was a stray. Well, I found him on the street.
Yeah, now he's living like a king in total clover.
He's living like a king.
Okay, so Fluffy, now that you have joined the fray, thank you. Now Michael can continue to tell us about what is he? Where were you now? With Britain and somewhere or another.
Yeah, we've gotten to Jamaica.
Yeah, we're in Jamaica now.
Right, so we're in Jamaica. But I want to just go back for a moment. I want to just make this point that how important the Irish are, and going back to the early days after the collapse of the Roman Empire, okay, precipitated a lot of movement within Europe, and also it provided opportunity for invasions from Ireland into Scotland. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is that the Scots were a tribe from Northern Ireland, from the north of Ireland. They were called the Scots. They invaded what we now call Scotland, named for them, but at that time it was known as Alba. So Alba, which is still a name retained within Scottish understanding, Alba was the name for Scotland before the Scots from Northern Ireland or the north of Ireland came and invaded. So the Irish kings were the kings of Scotland, as if they themselves were now the colonialists. I thought it's just my tongue. And they now became the usurpers, and they displaced the Picts, the Picts, Picts, from which we get the word picture. The Picts, the reason why is because they used to paint their bodies. Oh, very good. They painted their bodies with pictures. So that's how we get the name pictures. But it comes from the Picts. So they were displaced by the Irish invaders, who then were predominant up until the 12th century. And then the English came, well, the Vikings came along, they had a major influence. And the Vikings came into Scotland, and then the English later on. But the Irish were the original colonializers, if you will, of Scotland. And it was only through slips of the tongue and various things that the name Ireland became affixed to what we know Ireland is today. Prior to that, it was known as Major Scotia, as opposed to Scotland being Minor Scotia. So, because the Scots were from Ireland, so the major part was Ireland, so they were called Major Scotia, or Scotti, depending upon how you want to spell them out. And then Scotland was secondary, it was a secondary kingdom. And then ultimately there was political conflict between which king should be in charge, the one who was in Ireland versus the one who was sitting in Scotland, and so on and so forth. Eventually, the Irish kings died out, and they were displaced by I would say displaced, but they were replaced with the Anglo-Normans. That's another history coming from Normandy, so forth. So yeah, but Ireland. Okay, I'll go. Yeah, go ahead. I've got one other thing to say about Ireland. Go ahead.
No, finish what you're saying.
Yeah. So Ireland was very prominent at that point, at that particular point in time. But then what happened to Ireland, unfortunately, the Viking invasions had a major impact. They provided good things in terms of some of the military aspects that they brought. For example, the Irish didn't know how to ride horses. The Vikings rode on horses, and they changed warfare considerably from that standpoint, various things like that. But the Danes, who were the main bad guys, if you will, because you had three groups. You had the Vikings from Norway and Sweden and Denmark, but they were culturally different as much as they were the same in the sense that they all kind of banded together, but they were distinct groups. But the Danes were the ones that settled in England the most. The Norwegian Vikings settled a lot in Ireland, and then ultimately the Danish Vikings took over. But because of that, the Irish were never able to unite, and that was the downfall of Ireland versus the ascendancy of England. So Brian Boru, for those who are familiar with Irish history, he was one of the last famous heroes of Ireland. He died in battle. Had he lived, things might have gone differently. I think his descendants, they all got killed. Somebody can certainly check that to correct me on that. But the ending of the Irish kingdoms, based upon the Danish invasions and so forth, put a lot of pressure on the Irish, and they could never unite ultimately as a result of that. Had they been able to overcome their disunity, Ireland's history might be totally different today.
So Michael, so that's quite fascinating. So now fast forwarding to where you were talking before about Jamaica, with the Irish coming to Jamaica, and with the ancestors O'Hara and so forth. So how do we fast forward to that, and also how the Irish brogue and the Jamaican patois dialect have similarities and such? Can you speak to that a bit?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Emily, am I out of focus there? Check the focus.
You look fuzzy, and just make sure that you're speaking loud enough, because sometimes the sound drops down to me.
Yeah, seeing if I can adjust here. I don't know. I haven't
Maybe
changed
it's the
anything with
internet connection at this point. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, because I see
But
it's fuzzy on my
yeah,
end.
it can get fuzzy, but I think that's more internet related.
All
I
right.
think.
Okay.
But the
But you
main
can
thing
hear
is
me.
just the sound, just to keep the sound.
Yeah.
I have to wear the headset, apparently that makes the sound better, so clearer.
I could go to a headset if you think that would help.
Why don't you try it? Maybe it might. If it doesn't make it too, awkward for you, but
By the way, what I'm wearing, ladies and gentlemen, is called a Glengarry. There are two types of hat that you will see a lot of bagpipe or Scottish regiment play. This is the Glengarry. The other one is called the Balmoral, which is more like a flat. Let me see how it's.
whoa. Let me mute that. Let me mute that while he gets that together. Okay, is it Michael? It's too much static.
Yeah, hold on. The fluffy is causing some havoc.
The hazards of the pets once again. Yeah, so that's really interesting. I would love to know anyone who's watching this in the comments to share your perspective on this. Is this new information for you, or anything that you want to add that you already are familiar with that you'd like to contribute? It would be great to get your thoughts or any questions as well, and I will check over on Facebook, and if so, Michael can respond to them as well. Michael, someone said they love, Katie says she loves your painting behind you. So your Great Britain, British Isles painting.
Oh, yeah. I'll explain that in a moment. Let me just try something here.
The sound is better to me right now.
Is it okay right now?
I think
okay?
So. Yeah, for now.
All right. I'll try it as it is. If not, I'll use the headset. Yeah, so that poster.
Oh, no,
yes.
now it got fuzzy off again.
It's not again? Okay.
Try the headset. Okay, go ahead and try it. Let's see.
How's that?
That's much better. We need to stick with that.
All right, and also the pictures come back in focus, I think.
Yes, much better now. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. Yes, so somebody, thank you for noticing the post. The poster was, like my dog, was saved. It was going to be discarded. Since Emily has already outed me as to my my academic history, I was attending freshman classes trying to learn Spanish. And I was in the language lab, laboratory, as we'd say in English pronunciation. And they had this poster that was rolled up, and it was about to be discarded. This is a language lab, so there are posters of all kinds of foreign places in the lab. And this was one of them. But it was about to be thrown out. They just didn't have enough space. So I saved it over all those years and framed it. And it's been with me ever since. So that's the history.
Oh, okay. So see, it lives on. It lives on. Okay, so there is so Michael, there is so many things, and I know we can go bounce from isle to isle, and from the Danes to the Scots to the Visigoths, etc.
Yes, we could go that far if you want. Yeah,
we can go. It's all intertwined, and what this is telling us is that everything is connected. That we think that this is someone else's holiday and this is someone else's history, but somewhere along the line we're all interlaced, all intertwined, overlapping histories going on in this world. And so
just on that point, Emily, I'd mentioned that's a very good point in terms of how we really are connected. Not individual histories. We all have a common history. It just may be at different points in time.
Yes.
People think, especially when we talk about the Irish and the English, there was a point in time where the English were slaves.
Yes.
It's just that the English became ascendant through various accidents of nature or history, whatever. Everyone benefits from various things. So the English became ascendant. And then it becomes convenient to forget what the English were before. And to say that, slavery is a specific thing to our current period of time is not true. I mean, many people have had that. This is not to minimize it, but I'm just saying that people don't realize how closely connected their histories are. And for those of you who are linguists, the word slave comes from the word Slav. And the reason for that was that during the Roman Empire, most of the slaves were Slavic captors, captees, I guess, and they were the ones who were used to form the guards and a lot of the military, but they were slaves, and because there were so many of them, they were Slavic, and thus we get the name slave. That's where it comes from. So everybody has something somewhere along the line, not only the lows but the highs as well. Everyone has the highs.
So, Michael, what made you decide to play the bagpipe? Or how did that come about? And also, well, I'm going to ask you a two-part question. You can decide how you want to answer it. When you really started studying our family genealogy, you did a lot of research with the Mormon records. You went to Scotland, you went to Aberdeen. You kind of scoured the world for a lot of things, and you uncovered relatives in Australia and relatives over here and relatives over there. What got you fascinated with the genealogical research, and then what made you decide to learn the bagpipes?
Yeah. The bags. Let me start with the bagpipes first. It embodies a culture. This is from my perspective. It's one of those. It's an instrument that apart from just the fact that it's musical, it does have a cultural association with it. And my interest in the family was a convenient foundation for then developing a love for the instrument as a way of expressing the culture that I thought was that I was a part of, or inherited anyway. And so it was a confluence of that. So the bagpipes for me specifically was as an expression of cultural identity and in honor of our ancestors on the Gaelic side of things. Though when we use the word Gaelic, it includes the Danes, it includes the Normans, it includes everybody else who became Gaelic along the way. Uh, but it spoke to our mother's ancestry. That's where we are on our mother's side. That's where this comes from. So, in honor of her and her ancestors, the bagpipes was my way of expressing that respect. That was the main motivation for the bagpipes. Apart from the fact that it's a great fun instrument. Okay, and when I did start, I should say this: when I did reach out to find out, well, who's going to teach me and how am I going to learn it? So, from my standpoint, I have no concept of what's involved. Bagpipe bands, it just didn't occur to me. All I wanted to do was learn how to play the pipes. That's all I was interested in doing. So I went to a place that no longer exists now, but it was called the Scottish Shop in New York City, and they had the lowdown on all the pipe bands in the area and all the people who taught the pipes. And I ended up calling up a few places. One place was a little bit too far to travel. The other place was just right, if you will, the Three Bears, and this is the right porridge. It was the right place. And I had no concept either of Irish bands versus Scottish bands and the interplay. And I was very fortunate that the band that I got involved with emphasized both aspects of the Gaelic culture, Irish and Scottish, whereas some bands are primarily Irish oriented and some are Scottish oriented. So with the St. Columcille band, the reason why they were named St. Columcille is because he was from Ireland but went to Scotland. And that's the connection that unified within why that name was chosen for the band, and that was the way they approached the music. So they were not prejudiced in terms of, okay, we were going to orient one way or the other. This I wasn't aware of until I became a member, but thank goodness that was the right place for me to go. So I remember going into the prank. I showed up. I called the bagpipe and they said, okay, well, we practiced in Newark and a certain place, in McGovern's Tavern in Newark. And I said, okay, I'll see you on Wednesday. And I just walked in and I said, okay, here I am. And ready to play, ready to learn. And now me being from an English background, that was intriguing from that standpoint. But I said, look, we're all now. This goes back to my first point. So hopefully this will be with humor. I said, we're all British. I said, oh. No, no. You may be British. We're Irish or Gaelic or whatever. You may be British, but we're not. And so I said, "Oh, I see." That was my first lesson in realizing I better understand what's going on with that. So that was all in good fun. So I've already explained how the word Britain has got co-opted. But anyway, that was my beginnings.
But Michael, I think that was it's like one of these barrier breaking experiences where it's people are accustomed to stereotypes. They think that only the Irish can celebrate St. Patrick's Day, only the Irish can play a bagpipe or the Scottish or whatever, and you showed them, as we said, that it's this whole cross-cultural overlapping multi-layered thing that people don't even realize, but they get so accustomed to stereotyping that they don't even realize that yes, we are indeed the same and we share a lot of the same heritage, but it has been either dismissed, ignored, or not even acknowledged or even an awareness. So this is to acknowledge that people have multiple ingredients that make them up. And then and just for people to know, I didn't share this at the beginning, I don't remember. So with our family, so my brother grew up in England. You're born in Jamaica, left as a 1-year-old, grew up in England, so you're more aware of England than growing up British. I was born in England but grew up in Jamaica, so I'm more aware of growing up in Jamaica. And so we have all this cross-pollination, and then so I mean it represents this back and forth. Our whole family history is that. It's kind of this back and forth across the seas, whether you end up in Jamaica or you're coming from Africa or you're coming from Europe somewhere, but the point is this back and forth, and Jamaica is this crossroads location. And people tend to be surprised what comprises Jamaicans. And I will share, we have Chinese Jamaicans, Indian Jamaicans, Lebanese, Syrian, Jewish Jamaicans, and it's all because of the layers of history why that's the case. Do you want to speak to any of that a little briefly before we get into the music?
Yes.
I know that's a lot of layers, but nonetheless, just acknowledge it.
Yes. I just want to make one point with the slavery aspect, because that was a critical part of what brought our particular ancestors into Jamaica at that time. Because of slavery and the hardships and the cruelty of it, people don't realize that that's not how the world always was. Even at that time, that was not the only way people communicated. So the slavery, of course, put a certain taint on relationships, but there were a lot of relationships that were voluntary. When I say voluntary, it was the normal mixing of people going from one country to another, meeting whoever was there and falling in love with them and so forth. It wasn't necessarily under circumstances of servitude that these contacts were made. And it's important to say that in the context of the New World, because that is something people have to understand how the New World came about. So when people, if you were to take a group of folk, let's say everybody on this phone call right now, this podcast, were associated in one building, and we were trapped there forever or for a long period of time, and assuming that we had children. We would develop our own cultural patterns, our own habits, and so forth. And there may be certain genetic elements that would predominate or would then become a common a demarcating factor. And then when we left that building and we went outside, everyone would know, well, they came from that building. We know them. Okay, and also they're different because we can tell by their speech, and they have a certain genetic disposition. We can see that. Not realizing that they are exactly the same as the people outside, and the people outside are exactly the same as what's inside. It's just that isolation can breed, like my little dog you just saw there. Dogs are a perfect example. there isn't a dog on this planet that doesn't recognize another dog, no matter what it looks like. They only see a dog. And we may breed them to be small, to be large, or to be whatever, but a dog is still that. And dogs being our best friend, that's a compliment to us to be associated with them, because if we could be as loyal as dogs are, we would be a much better species.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of genetically, the dogs are a good example of how human beings really are, that we really are one and the same. Only our experiences separate us in that regard. But then again, at the same time, our experiences and ultimately unite us because we will find that our experiences are shared in some fashion somewhere along the way.
Yes, yes, so true, so true. So this, I mean, there's so again, there are many layers of this of this discussion. I'm sure it can generate a lot of questions as far as
Mm-hmm.
ways that we could go. So, just in the interest of time, but certainly,
Oh,
it's
you mentioned the accent. I didn't want to. You mentioned that. I'm sorry if I
okay.
didn't
Okay, go
address
ahead
that.
with that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Jamaican, well, the West Indian, because there's the West Indian accent as a whole. There are dialects within it, but let's say the West Indian accent as a whole uh, is. There are many theories as to how it developed, but there are certain connections with Gaelic pronunciation, dialect that I think it's fair to say had an impact. And as I mentioned, the Irish were a significant part of the European population in the early days of the development of the West Indies under the British. And so clearly their accent was had some impact. I would not doubt it. There are other influences, but the Irish is one that comes to mind principally. Now, the Scots were also a part, but I would say the Irish were more so in the beginning.
More
Uh,
so, what in
in
terms of
terms of an influence in terms of dialect,
the dialect? Yeah.
yeah, the
Okay.
dialect. I'd say the Irish had a greater influence on it, and there are a lot of studies on that. I'm not an expert on all of them, but that the Irish influence as a dialect cannot be dismissed in terms of the pattern. Now, remember, we're talking about the British West Indies. We're not talking about the Dutch West Indies or the Spanish. That's different. But in terms of the West Indian accent that people are most familiar with, yes, the Irish had definitely, I'm sure, had a significant part in the development of that. And then you had other influences. Yeah, of course, you have African influences and so forth. But ultimately, it's English. It's a corruption of it in the sense that it's adaptable to another form of English, but it's basically English. It's coming from. Oh, one other thing too, with this respect to language, English is not the native language of Ireland, which shouldn't be a surprise, but most people speak English. And there is currently an effort to try to bring back the Irish Gaelic and have it spoken more prominently, which I applaud that effort. But English is the first language, I would say, of the Irish today, despite the political and historical differences. English became the predominant tongue, and I can't remember all the history, but there was a period in time, I think maybe uh, late 18th, early 19th century, around that time, where English became the accepted standard within Ireland, but definitely with its own Irish uh, tilt to it, clearly.
So,
But yeah.
So, Michael, with all the different points you've made today and the historical context you've shared, what would you say you would if someone were to remember one thing that of all the things you shared, that they should really have as a takeaway and be a key lesson for them? What would that be?
Okay. Let's start with it's not St. Patty's Day, it's St. Paddy's Day or St. Patrick's Day.
What
I've
is?
been told that's so. If you want to remember
Oh,
today's date,
do I
I
have
know
it
that's not
wrong?
what you expected, but let me
Wait a minute. Do I
just.
have it wrong? It's not. What are you telling me? It's not supposed to be St. Patrick's apostrophe S, or what are you saying?
No, it's not. If you go to Ireland,
Uh
if
huh.
you're outside of Ireland, nobody really would probably care. But if you go to Ireland itself, you don't say Saint Patty. You say
Okay.
if you're gonna give it as a nickname, you're gonna say Paddy, Saint Paddy's Day. But if you want to be truly safe, say St. Patrick's Day. And
Okay.
for
Wait a
all of
minute.
those,
That's the number one thing you want us to remember?
no, of course not.
That was a side comment. Okay.
That's a side comment. Okay, but certainly that might be very important for those people going to Ireland who don't want to run afoul of the Irish. So
Okay.
that's important. No, okay. Uh, in the context of, since we're celebrating the Irish specifically here today, uh, I think what I would want people to take away from this is that the Irish have been a very inclusive peoples, and that has been what has saved them through their history. The people who have gone to Ireland become Irish, and the Irish accept them. So when all these invasions were taking place by the Vikings and the English and the Anglo-Normans and all these folks, they ultimately became Irish. And St. Patrick, who was not from Ireland, having only spent 7 years of his life, and he was already a teenager at the time, that 6 to 7 years left him an Irishman. So
So
when
where did
he
he come
left,
from? Where did he come from originally?
his origins are from Brittany, which is the western part of France.
Okay.
Though there are people who say he was born in Dumbarton, which is in northern England, Scotland, and some say he was born in Wales. Various things like that. It's not clear, and he himself, even in his own writings, does not go into detail as to where he was born. But
Okay.
it is clear that when he was taken as a slave, or he left to be in servitude, he was in the Brittany portion of Europe. That I think would probably be the most confirmed. That people may
Okay.
disagree with that, but that's basically the case. So yeah, so he came from he left. He was not Irish. He was not from Ireland originally. Bottom point, main point. So he was, when he went to Ireland, he was in servitude. That 7 years he was there formed his character as far as his identity. So when he went back to the continent, to his parents, and told them that, and he was there for a while before this happened, before he went back to Ireland. But he got a vision, a message that he was to go to Ireland, back to Ireland, and to convert the pagans to Christianity. That was his calling. And so when he went back, he he considered he was as Irish as they come. So the Irish have been very, very welcoming, and I think that is what I would want people to take away from our session here today. That if you open your arms to people, they may be different, but if you treat them as you see yourself, this sounds very simple stuff, what I'm saying, and platitude and all, but it really is common to what we really need to understand as a human species. Open your arms to something that may seem different to you. Don't be afraid. Yes, be cautious, be questioning. Okay. The devil comes in many disguises, so you don't want to be just taken for a ride every time. But don't assume that everybody is going to be against you. There's more. There's more there than you may see, and the Irish are a good example of that. And all the people who have invaded Ireland over time have become Irish, as opposed to trying to distinguish themselves as some subgroup. Northern Ireland, the history there's a little different, but even there, even with that, the people who came to Northern Ireland have become Irish as well. So yeah, I would say that my main message would be uh, welcome welcome each person you see, and give them a chance, and see them like you see yourself. and you'll have no problems. No.
Amen, amen. Yes, there are effects here. Amen, amen. And I just can't help but appreciate that point, and also just to make the comment that in Jamaica, for example, sometimes the terrain can look very Irish or even Scottish, or it kind of
Oh,
a lot of
yeah.
similarities in the terrain, in
Oh,
certain
let me
parts
just.
of the island.
Oh, sorry, Emily. Yeah, I just reminded me of something. In terms of the genealogy, you also about the genealogy. Apart from it just being an interest of mine, which leads you down all kinds of paths. One of the things that I found that helped me track the Irish side of things was that the place where the O'Haras lived in Jamaica was called Ballymoney, and I never paid attention to the name. But then I started looking at the map of Ireland and seeing a lot of names with the prefix Bally. And then I realized that this was probably the connection I was looking for. That if I can find a Ballymoney in Ireland, I may pinpoint our Patrick O'Hara's originations, which I'm working on that, by the way. But that was that they brought that name to Jamaica with them, and that was the one clue that helped me open the doors to finding out that they were from Antrim originally, northern part of Ireland, and so forth. So it led down that road.
And
Hmm?
Michael, we might want to add that our family name McHugh, there's
Oh
Scottish
yeah.
and Irish McHugh, but ours is a
Oh,
Scottish McHugh.
oh, okay.
Just
Oh, I'm
just
glad
as
you
a
remind. That
as
was
an
one other thing I
aside.
wanted to say. Oh, good, Emily. Thank you. I completely forgot. This is one point I wanted to make. Uh, okay. People think that MC is Irish and MAC is Scottish. This has been a tradition within the United States. This is not true in terms of the origins of MC and MAC. MC and MAC are exactly the same. They mean son of, and they're both pronounced the same. They're pronounced Mac, not Mick for MC, and not Mac for MAC. Now, this is an American problem, which I want to stamp out. Okay, but this is what happens when people go to different parts of the world and they want to remember their heritage and they want to hold on to certain things and how they do that. Originally, if I try to make this quick, but originally when you look at the Irish settlements in the Americas, the colonialization period of America, the early parts, the pre-revolutionary parts, uh, the many Scots-Irish, what came to be called Scots-Irish, came to the United States. They came from what is now Northern Ireland. They were in turn from Scotland transplanted to Northern Ireland to try to maintain Protestant domination. They in turn, a generation later in the 17th, 18th centuries, they then came to the United States. So that's why you find a lot of people of Scots-Irish descent. Now, Scots-Irish means the Scots that settled in Northern Ireland that then came to the United States. But they were called Irish. They were not called Scots or Scots-Irish. The term Scots-Irish developed because when the Irish from the Catholic side of things came, then people wanted to distinguish themselves from those Irish. So therefore, let us call ourselves Scots-Irish. But before that, they were more than happy to be called Irish. Right? So again, this is how this developed. And then to further distinguish themselves, or people who wanted to say that I'm more Scottish than Irish, well, I've got to be MAC. Where that came from, God only knows, but that was an American invention. So Mac is there as many MACs in Ireland as there are in Scotland, as there are as many MCs in Scotland as there are in Ireland. Going to our name, MCHUGH, it's both Scottish and Irish. It's common in Ireland. It is also found in Scotland. I believe that our particular name came from Scotland. Um, that is subject to further verification, but it can be both. And it's MC, not MAC, and it's MC regardless of whether Scottish or Irish. But that's an important little something that
Right.
a lot of people don't realize, how these things came about. And a lot of it's just because of prejudice of, well, because the Irish was a poor country, and then there's major immigrations of Irish into America, and people looked down upon them, and therefore they wanted to distinguish that, and so they came up with the MAC as some magical cure for that, and that's
So, I
nonsense.
might say, I will tell our viewers that when we were initially discussing coming on and sharing some thoughts with you, I told Michael we're going to do this for about 20 minutes, 30 minutes at the most. Then I said, I think it's going to be about an hour. But now we're going close to, where are we? Over
I think
an
we're
hour,
done.
and I think we need some music. So I promised you some music, and we need to have a few songs, not to keep you too terribly long. But what is St. Patrick's Day without music? Now you have had your history lesson, so we want to thank Michael for that, for sharing all of these amazing insights and just kind of highlighting so much for us to be aware of today. So thank you for sharing from your vast reservoir of historical insights there. And we look forward to the podcast. We look forward to the book. We look forward to all the things that you have to work on. So there you go. Yes, indeed. So with that, we will now transition to a song. So I don't know, should I play a little song while you get your pipes together, and then we're going to end with Michael playing his pipes?
Okay.
Now, I'm not sure how this is going to work with the headset and the this and the that. I think I have to plug it out. Hopefully it won't.
Well, I certainly have to unplug. That's for sure.
Hopefully it won't degrade. But when we come back and end, we maybe put it back on to speak. It comes out better. But with the instruments, I think I have to unplug it. So, okay, people, let me know what you think of what Michael has shared, and any questions you have, drop them in the comments. Make sure to like, share. If you're watching on YouTube later, subscribe. And this is a supercharge special. We're supercharging our history and using this occasion to do so. All right, let me pull that out. Huh?
Also, I just want to say that I'm open to correction, and I'm sharing what I know, what I recall, and hopefully I won't mislead anybody. But check me and go on your own little search, and you might be surprised what you find.
That's called a disclaimer from our attorney on the line today.
No,
That is a
I
disclaimer.
I own what I say. I'll stand
He
by it. But
stands
I
by his
encourage
words.
others to do their due diligence.
Exactly. Everyone should search out for themselves. Okay. All right now. And then, okay, I'm gonna pull this out, and you should still hear me, Michael. You hear me? Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
You hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I hear you. Okay. Okay.
All right.
So. Okay, wait. That's good. I'm gonna mute you for a second because I'm gonna mute you for a second. you. Now we're going to have. Oh. Now we're going to.
The little dog I have to take out because I think this is going to scare him to death.
Oh Lord, have mercy. When the pipes begin, we're going to have. So we're
We'll
going
see.
to. Huh?
We'll see if he makes it. We'll see.
Why don't you have the door open so he can go out if he has to leave? He can escape.
This may be the first time a dog has ever accompanied bagpipes.
Oh gosh, we don't want any unnatural sounds from this poor animal. But when Michael used to play the bagpipes in when we lived in New Jersey, he would practice in the basement because of course the whole house would come alive. But he was able to muffle the sound pretty well. But yeah, I mean the sound definitely is gonna travel.
Also, you asked, what was another incentive? Wearing a kilt is wonderful. People need to understand.
Can we see your kilt? We haven't even really seen it. We don't even know if it's on.
Yes, you see it.
Okay, now your sound is echoey again, but we're gonna play the pipe. So when you speak, we have to put on the headset. So we're just gonna get to the music. Let's hopefully the sound will work. Oh, I have to put my headset back in. All right, let me do that. You just go ahead, Michael. Bravissimo, bravissimo. Okay, I think we may have blown the eardrums of the people listening. I don't know, but guest mic level sound levels with no. I have an amazing producer behind the scenes doing her best to help me out, Miss Katie. Thank you.
And the dog ran out for dear life.
The dog escaped out the hatch. Okay, I'm not surprised. Yes, Katie, I appreciate it. I don't know what to hit. Let me see. What do you say? Guest mic level. Where in the world is the guest mic? People, I'm using an amazing program. It's called Ecamm. You see all this pretty stuff on the screen, the sound effects and all of that. It's an amazing app called Ecamm, but I'm still learning it. I still feel myself somewhat of a novice. So Katie Simpson, who's an expert at Ecamm and production and stuff and an amazing supercharger, has helped me tremendously. And so in the background, she's kind of helping me out. Switch them? And this thing keeps falling. Okay. Everything is like new. Okay, oh, that is better. Thank you for that. And then my sister said, switch the headset so I can free my hands. I'm a novice today. Bring up the sound levels window, and it is the interview volume. Sound levels window. Okay, I don't know. I think we're gonna stop playing anyway, so we're just gonna talk a little bit before we wrap up. And we'll find the sound levels window next time. But yeah, Michael, thank you so much for that. That was really fantastic. It's wonderful to hear your pipes. And thank you for bringing them out of cold storage and warming them up. Now, what is that thing on the side of your head on your Glengarry? What exactly is that brooch sitting there? That cute. Yeah, let's bring it into the camera so they can see it. Ah.
Oh, here,
Right, yeah, your
right?
little brooch. Yes, yes, yes.
That's that's the McDonald clan brooch. Oh, that's what. Oh, another. I'm glad you reminding of these things. The clan system. Some of you may be familiar with that. Uh, the clan system developed in Scotland primarily. The bagpipes that we currently are familiar with are the Scottish form of the bagpipes, though the bagpipes have come from many origins, Egypt being probably the most ancient origin of the
Egypt.
bagpipe. But the
Wow.
Scottish bagpipe is the one that we all now recognize as the universal bagpipe form, and that developed in Scotland itself. Consists of the chanter, which plays the melody, and then the bass drone, and then two tenor drones,
Hold it
which
up. Let's see
harmonize.
the beautiful instrument, please. If we can see it in the camera. Oh no, no, you need to keep that on. Okay, all right. For now, at least we can at least see it. Okay, very nice.
Bass,
Okay,
tenors, and tenor.
okay, the bass and two tenor drones. Okay, yeah, two, and so, yeah, the bass. So three
Oh,
drones. Okay,
yeah.
put
So
back on your thing now, please.
yeah.
Your headset.
So with the one last thing with the names, the clan system. So McHugh is a sept. That's what it is, a subfamily, a sept of Clan Donald, which is clan. So MacDonald is the main clan name. So clans are associations of families, not necessarily by blood, but often that's the case. But by geography, they would form under a certain chief and get protection from him, and that's how the clans came about. And then with into the 19th century, the clan system really became popular in terms of the plaids that you see people, the tartans that people wear. That was a result of resurgence of Scottish culture. And with respect to kilts, Irish kilts, a true Irish kilt has no plaid. It's a solid color. That's a
Oh,
true Irish kilt. Okay. The tartans come from Scotland. However, people use whatever the tartans are now because they're attractive and so forth. But the true Irish kilts are a solid color. And the irony of the colors, people say, well, why? What does green mean, and what does yellow orange mean? Okay, the reason why green is associated with Ireland, Great Ireland, various sources, but mostly to do with the fact that the shamrock was popularized as the representation of the Emerald Isle, and shamrock is green, so that was one source of the belief of the green color. There were others where the Republican army members, by Republicans, those who were fighting for independence within Ireland, they wore green, and so green is thought of as in terms of a commemoration of them, so on and so forth. Anyway, green has become the representation of the Emerald Isle, whereas orange was a representation of the Protestants under William of Orange, who came from the Netherlands to become King of England. Another story. And so orange became the color. So that's why you see orange. However, the saffron color is an orange color, but saffron is Irish colors. So you can wear a saffron kilt. It looks orange, but it is not. It is saffron. That you can wear. Okay. Okay. So there's a little bit there on the history, but the
wow,
kilts.
wow. No, no, it's really fascinating. I mean, there's so much. This is
There's
an
so much.
introduction. This is an introduction. So, I think I just had an idea, Michael. I know that in England, there'll be a new king coronated shortly in the next few months. Maybe you could do a commentary on that. That just kind of came to my head as something you might want to work towards.
What am I going to be doing?
I don't know, a
I,
commentary
I,
about
I,
all the history.
I,
Like,
I want. Oh, by the way, I want to tell everybody on this broadcast that I, we're all supposed to have a voluntary uh, spirit. We all supposed to be able to do what we want to do. Uh, but I, I don't think I had much choice in the matter. I was advertised before I even knew I was going to be a guest. So to say that I wasn't going to participate would have was the perfect checkmate. But okay, because the audience was already set up. But in reality, though, this has been a great pleasure for me. So I thank my sister for this.
I think it's been amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for those who watched, who stayed up late. All across the world,
Mhm.
we have people in the UK itself up here
Mhm.
watching up late and guiding us along. So this has been really wonderful. And for anyone who's going to watch it later, again, please share your thoughts and your feedbacks, anything that resonated with you, any questions you have for Michael, and maybe we can have this discussion another
Mhm.
time and continue in another way. But I think it's very important that we open dialogue and have obscure information shared so that we can have a more open discourse going forward and not subscribe to a narrow narrative.
Mhm. Emily, may I just take this opportunity, just in case, because the internet is so ubiquitous now. Two people I want to just mention, in addition, are relatives, both in Australia. Brian Stafford, if you're watching, I hope you are, and Brian O'Hara, who on the Irish side is directly related through the O'Hara sisters through whom we came. And he also was helpful with giving me some family history. And both of those gentlemen are in Perth. Just so you know how wide our net our family has reached. But if they're listening, I hope a special hello to you guys.
And
Thanks,
Brian
Emily.
was born in Jamaica and moved
Mm,
to Australia, but
correct,
studied in
correct.
England, and all of this again, the circuitous routes around the world.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's so amazing and wonderful. And to any of our Mar cousins who might be chiming in, we hope you find this interesting as well as you're part of this journey with us, and to get your perspective. I saw a comment from someone on Facebook recently. He saw a family photo and he said he'd love to be a part of that family. So if that person is watching, consider yourself so. You're included in this discussion, and everyone who we're part of the worldwide family. That's what we are,
Mhm.
a family of God. God created all of us and we are connected, and we're here to acknowledge that and that beautiful creation that we are. And even
Mhm.
though there are many things going on in this world that many of us would acknowledge is not ideal, far from it to be precise, but there are some good things, and this is one of them, and we're here to celebrate that today. And so, again, thank you, Michael, for sharing your wealth of knowledge and
Mhm.
things that you share with us on a more or less frequent basis, but the rest of the world doesn't get to hear. I said, you know what? Enough talking to me. Why don't you tell some other people what you know? Hence my prodding for the podcast. But we'll be working on that going forward. That's just putting, again, whatever,
Mhm.
doing what little sisters do, pressure big
Mhm.
brothers, and that's how we do that. Okay, so with it, before we even say goodbye, any other parting words before I hit goodbye for St. Patrick's Day, coming to you live and direct?
Erin Gobra.
Erin, go bra, go bra, go bra, da 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 da. Let me see. No, I don't
Ireland
have any.
forever.
Huh? Ireland forever. And
Mhm.
Jamaica forever too. Okay, very good. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Have a wonderful rest of your day and stay supercharged. Don't forget to tune in for Momentum Monday coming on Monday,
Right.
8 a.m. usually when I get it up here. And yeah, that's pretty much the deal. So, with that, I'm going to say bye bye and see you next time. And thank you, Michael. We
Okay.
should have a song to lead us out. We really should. You have a closing song?
You want me to have a closing song?
Yeah. Do you,
No.
or is that too much trouble? Oh, you know what? You want me to
Play,
just
yeah,
play? I'll
yeah,
play.
do your violin. Yeah.
Let me just play Amazing. I'll end with this.
You want to
You
do
want to do
amazing?
amazing?
Try it together.
We can try. We
Okay.
can
Why
try.
don't you? Why don't we try it and
All right.
take it home?
Okay.
I'll warm it up.
Wait. Yeah. Mhm. Chime in with me.
Okay, yeah, I know you need to get it together. And look at this cute kilt, everybody. All right, let them see your kilt now. That's right.
Can they see this kilt?
Not very, very well. Maybe just jump up a little bit. Give it a little jump. There you go. All right. Let me see. Where's my mute? I'm gonna put on my mute. I don't know.
Emily, why don't you zoom out a little bit?
I
Zoom
don't
out.
know how to turn the volume down right now.
Okay, you zoom out. You can maybe get the kilt.
Okay, hold on a second.
You hear what I said?
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Okay. There we go. I'm gonna mute him until he gets. I'm gonna let him get it started first.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you a chance to inflate. Now go ahead. Amen. 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 So with that, people, I'm gonna say thank you again. Thank you again. Thank you, Michael, for being such a wonderful representative, and of course, for being a wonderful big brother. I also have my wonderful brother Andrew, who will probably be watching too. He should pick up the bagpipes and you play a duet, but he plays the piano. He plays the piano. But anyway, that's wonderful, huh? Not in a while. Okay, maybe we all need to pick up our instruments again. Yeah, everybody. Okay, thank you, Michael. Is it really hard to play the bagpipes?
Initially, to get the coordination of the pipe, so you get a constant sound. That takes in the beginning, and then you have to practice. I mean, you have to get the fingering, nimble fingers. There's certain notes that have to be played that they're called grace notes, which embellish the main notes, and you have to be able to get those sounds in. So yes, but if you put your mind to it, you can learn it.
There you go. That's how you do it. Okay, everybody, thanks again. Thank you, Michael. And remember, stay supercharged. Till next time, and happy St. Patrick's Day. Bye bye. Okay, bye bye. Let's see, doesn't want to stop. Okay.